There are places not meant for the living to enter. And there are rules not made to scare you, but to keep you alive. In this village, everyone knows one warning. Never enter the cemetery after midnight. But if you don't believe it, if you think it's just superstition, then listen to this story until the end. Because you might be the next one. Chapter 1. The Warning. In the village, there was one warning everyone knew by heart, no matter how old they were. Never enter the cemetery after midnight. The elders said it in low voices. Mothers whispered it to children when the wind howled too loudly outside. Even the drunk men at the roadside tea stall would suddenly fall silent whenever the cemetery was mentioned, as if speaking too much about it might invite something unwanted to listen. No one ever explained the warning clearly. Some said strange lights were seen drifting between the graves on moonless nights. Others claimed they had heard footsteps in the cemetery long after the gates had been locked. Slow and heavy, as though someone, or something, was wandering among the tombstones in search of a name. A few swore they had heard crying there at exactly midnight. Not the cry of an animal, but the sound of a woman sobbing somewhere deep in the dark. And then there were the stories about people who had gone in after midnight. They always came back different. If they came back at all. Min first heard the warning on a wet evening while sitting under the rusted tin roof of a small tea shop at the entrance of the village. Rain tapped steadily against the wooden tables, and the yellow light bulb above him flickered every few seconds, making every face around him look pale and tired. The old villagers spoke little, but once the subject of the cemetery came up, the air itself seemed to grow colder. An old man with sunken cheeks leaned forward and said, almost in a whisper, "During the day, it's only a cemetery. After midnight, it becomes something else." Min almost laughed. He had come from the city for work, and he had no patience for village superstitions. To him, ghost stories were nothing more than fear wrapped in old rumor. He took a sip of bitter tea, smiled faintly, and looked out at the rain-soaked road leading toward the distant hill where the cemetery stood. Dark, silent, waiting. "I don't believe in ghosts," he said calmly. At once, the tea shop felt completely quiet. No one smiled, no one argued. The old man only stared at him with tired, hollow eyes and replied, "That place doesn't care what you believe." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. And for the first time that night, Min felt a chill he could not explain. Chapter 2. The Challenge. Min did not sleep that night. The rain had stopped sometime after midnight, leaving behind a heavy silence that pressed against the walls of the small guest room he had rented. The air smelled faintly of damp wood and soil. And somewhere far away, a dog barked once, then suddenly went quiet, as if it had been silenced. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. The old man's words kept echoing in his mind. "That place doesn't care what you believe." Min exhaled slowly and turned to his side. Ridiculous. He had spent years studying engineering, working in cities filled with noise, logic, and concrete. He believed in measurements, data, and proof, not in whispers carried by frightened villagers or stories passed down without evidence. Still, something about the way they had gone silent bothered him. It wasn't fear. It was certainty. The next evening, Min returned to the same tea shop. The sky was clearer now. But the atmosphere hadn't changed. The villagers were gathered in the same places, sitting quietly, sipping tea, speaking only when necessary. Conversations died quickly whenever Min walked close enough to hear. He pulled up a chair anyway. So, he began casually, "That cemetery on the hill, has anyone actually been there after midnight?" No one answered. A man in his 50s kept his eyes on his cup. A woman turned her head away. Even the old man from last night didn't speak at first. The silence stretched longer than it should have. Min smirked slightly. "See? Just stories." That was when another man, younger but with a hardened face, looked up. "You think it's just stories?" he asked. Min shrugged. "I think people scare themselves. Darkness does that." The man leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Then go," he said. Min raised an eyebrow. "Go there tonight, at midnight. Walk inside. Stay long enough to prove nothing's there." The others immediately shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered under their breath. The old man finally spoke. His voice sharp this time. "Stop it." But the younger man didn't look away from Min. "Well?" he pressed. "You said you don't believe." For a brief moment, the air felt heavier again. Min could have refused. He should have. But pride is a dangerous thing, especially in a place that feeds on silence. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and smiled. "Fine," he said, "I'll go." A low murmur spread through the tea shop. Not excitement, not curiosity. Something closer to dread. The old man stared at him, his expression darker than before. "If you go," he said slowly, "don't stay longer than a few minutes." Min chuckled. "I thought nothing was supposed to happen if I don't believe?" The old man didn't smile. "That's not how it works." That night, as the village fell asleep and the last lights flickered out one by one, Min stood by the window of his room, looking toward the hill. The cemetery was barely visible in the distance. Just a darker shape against the night sky. Waiting. He checked his watch. 11:37 p.m. Plenty of time. Min grabbed his flashlight, slipped on his jacket, and headed out into the cold, silent road. Behind him, the village remained still. No one followed. No one tried to stop him. And somehow, that made everything worse.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 3. The Gate Opens. By the time Min reached the foot of the hill, the night had grown unnaturally still. There was no wind. No insects. No distant sounds from the village. Even his own footsteps seemed strangely muted, as if the earth beneath him was swallowing every trace of movement. The narrow dirt path leading up to the cemetery stretched ahead like a dark ribbon, barely visible under the dim glow of the moon hidden behind drifting clouds. Min checked his watch. 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes. He exhaled slowly and continued walking. Each step felt heavier than the last. Not physically, but something else. Something subtle, pressing against his chest, tightening his breathing. He told himself it was just the silence playing tricks on his mind. Nothing more. At the top of the hill, the cemetery finally revealed itself. A wide, shadowed field surrounded by a rusted iron fence, its jagged tips pointing upward like broken teeth. The trees inside stood tall and thin. Their branches twisted into unnatural shapes, as if they had grown while trying to escape something beneath the soil. And at the center, the gate, half open. Min stopped. He was certain the villagers had said the cemetery was always locked. Yet there it was. Not broken. Not forced. Just open. Waiting. 11:59 p.m. A faint metallic creak echoed through the air. Min froze. The gate moved slightly. Not enough to close. Not enough to open further. Just enough to make a sound. He swallowed. Wind, he muttered under his breath. But there was no wind. He lifted his flashlight and shone it toward the entrance. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the gravel path beyond the gate, leading deeper into rows of silent graves. Nothing moved. Nothing responded. Still, something felt wrong. Not in a way he could see, but in a way he could feel. Like stepping too close to the edge of something unseen. 12 a.m. Min's watch clicked softly. Midnight. The moment the second hand aligned perfectly at the top, the temperature dropped. Not gradually. Not naturally. It dropped all at once. A cold so sharp it felt like ice sliding beneath his skin. Min sucked in a breath. What the? Before he could finish. Clang. The sound exploded behind him. Min spun around. The gate. It had slammed shut. Hard. The metal bars rattled violently for a few seconds before falling completely still again. Min stared at it, his heart suddenly pounding. That's not funny. He stepped closer and grabbed the gate. Cold. Too cold. He pulled. It didn't move. He pulled harder. Nothing. The hinges didn't even creak. It was as if the gate had never been open at all. A slow realization crept into his mind. He was inside. And the way out was gone. Min turned back toward the cemetery. The darkness seemed deeper now. Thicker. The beam of his flashlight no longer stretched as far as before. As if something in the air itself was swallowing the light. Then, he noticed something. The path ahead. It had changed. He was sure there had been only one narrow trail leading inward. But now, there were multiple. Splitting. Twisting. Leading in different directions between the graves. And for a brief moment, he thought he saw movement. Not clearly. Not fully. Just a shadow, slipping behind one of the tombstones. Min held his breath. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. Only silence. But not empty silence. This silence felt occupied. Then, a sound. Soft. Faint. Right behind him. A footstep. Min's entire body went rigid. He turned slowly. Nothing. No one. The gate stood silent. The trees didn't move. The graves remained still. He let out a shaky breath. I'm imagining things. Another step. This time. Closer. And unmistakably real. Min didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't even blink. Because deep down, he already knew. Whatever had made that sound was standing right behind him. Chapter 4. The Nameless Graves. Min didn't turn around immediately. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move. The air behind him felt heavier, colder, as if something invisible had stepped into his space, something that did not belong to the world he knew. Slowly, very slowly, he forced himself to turn. Nothing. No one. Only the silent rows of graves stretching endlessly into the darkness. Min exhaled sharply, a nervous breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Just my imagination," he whispered, though the words felt weak even to himself. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and pointed it forward. The beam trembled slightly. The path ahead was no longer familiar. What had once seemed like a single straight trail had now become a maze of narrow walkways weaving between graves of different shapes and sizes. Some were old and cracked, leaning at unnatural angles. Others looked newly placed, their soil still fresh, as if something had been buried only hours ago. Min stepped forward cautiously. Crunch. The sound of gravel beneath his shoe echoed louder than it should have. Too loud. As if the silence around him was amplifying every movement. He approached the nearest grave. The tombstone was simple, rough, worn by time. He shone the light directly onto it. Blank. No name. No date. Nothing. Min frowned. That's strange. He moved to the next grave. Also blank. Then another. And another. Dozens of graves. All without names. A faint uneasiness began to grow inside him. Graves without names meant no identity. No history. No proof that anyone had ever existed there. It was as if the people buried beneath them had been erased. Min turned slowly, scanning the area. Every tombstone in sight. Empty. Clean. Waiting. A sudden chill ran down his spine. He felt it again. That presence. Not behind him this time. But, watching. From somewhere among the graves. He spun around quickly, sweeping the flashlight across the darkness. Left. Right. Nothing. Just shadows stretching and shrinking with the movement of the light. "Stop it," he muttered to himself. "There's nothing here." But his voice sounded unfamiliar. Smaller. Distant. Min forced himself to move forward again. Step by step. Grave by grave. Each one the same. Blank. 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 Then. He stopped. One tombstone. Different. Min stared at it. His breath caught in his throat. The surface was no longer empty. There was writing. Fresh. As if it had just been carved. He stepped closer. Slowly. Unwillingly. The beam of his flashlight steadied on the stone. Revealing the name. Min. His heart slammed violently against his chest. No. He shook his head. That's not possible. He stepped back. Then froze. Because something changed. Another grave. A few meters away. A name appeared. Faint at first. Then clearer. Min turned. Another one. Then another. Names. Carving themselves into the stone. One by one. All around him. And for a split second. He thought he recognized some of them. The villagers. The old man. The people from the tea shop. Min's breathing became shallow. Irregular. This isn't real. Then. A sound. Not a footstep. Not movement. But something else. A low scraping noise. Min slowly lowered his gaze. Toward the ground. The soil. It was shifting. Just slightly. At first. Then more. As if something beneath the earth was moving. A crack formed in the dirt. Right in front of him. And from that crack, something pale began to emerge. A hand. Thin. Rotting. Covered in dirt. Its fingers twitched. Then curled. Grabbing onto the edge of the grave. Min stumbled backward. His flashlight beam shook violently as he tried to focus. No, no, no. More cracks. More movement. Around him. The ground began to break open. Hands. Dozens of them. Reaching upward. Clawing their way out. And then, from somewhere deep within the cemetery, a whisper. Low. Broken. Breathing against the air. Stay. Min froze. Because this time, he knew for certain. He was no longer alone.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 5. The Second Footstep. Min ran. He didn't think. Didn't look back. Didn't try to understand what he had just seen. He simply ran. Gravel scattered beneath his feet as he sprinted down the narrow path. His breath tearing out of his chest in sharp, uneven bursts. The beam of his flashlight swung wildly in front of him, slicing through the darkness in frantic arcs, revealing glimpses of crooked tombstones and shadows that seemed to move just a little too slowly, or a little too late. Behind him, the sound of earth breaking. Hands clawing upward. Something, rising. Min pushed himself faster. This isn't real, this isn't real, he repeated under his breath. As if saying it enough times would make it true. But the cemetery didn't care. Then, he heard it. A footstep. Min's legs faltered for half a second. It wasn't his own. It came from behind him. Perfectly timed. Perfectly paced. He took another step. So did it. Crunch. Crunch. Min's heart skipped. No echo. No delay. No distortion. Another step. Closer. He forced himself to keep moving. His entire body now trembling, not just from fear, but from the growing certainty that something was following him. Not chasing. Not attacking. Just walking. Matching him. Min slowed slightly. The sound behind him slowed too. He stopped. Silence. For a moment, nothing happened. No movement. No breath. No sound. Then, crunch. A single step. Right behind him. Min's entire body went rigid. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't imagination. Something had taken a step, after he stopped. Very slowly, Min turned his head. Not fully. Just enough to glance over his shoulder. Darkness. Nothing but darkness. He spun around completely. The flashlight beam cut through the air. Empty. No figure. No shape. No one there. But the feeling. That presence. It was closer now. Much closer. Min staggered backward, his breath quick and shallow. "Show yourself," he shouted, his voice cracking despite the force behind it. The cemetery swallowed his words whole. No echo. No response. Only silence. Then, a whisper. So close it felt like it brushed against his ear. "Why did you stop?" Min gasped and spun around again. Nothing. Still nothing. His mind began to fracture under the pressure. "This is impossible. I'm alone. I'm alone." Crunch. Another step. This time, in front of him. Min froze. The path ahead shifted. The gravel moved slightly, as if something invisible had just stepped onto it. Then again. Crunch. A second invisible step. Closer. Something was no longer behind him. It was in front of him now. Min stumbled backward. No, no, no. Crunch. Another step forward. And suddenly, the air changed. It grew colder. Heavier. Thicker. Min could feel it now. Right there. Standing only a few feet away from him. He raised the flashlight with shaking hands. The beam hit nothing. But the light bent slightly. As if it had touched something that refused to be seen. Then. A shape. Not fully visible. Not clear. But wrong. A distortion in the darkness. And inside that distortion. Two faint points. Eyes. Watching him. Min screamed and turned, running blindly into the maze of graves. Branches scratched against his arms. Stones caught his feet. The ground twisted beneath him as if trying to trip him. To slow him down. But behind him. The footsteps returned. Not one. Two. One from behind. One from ahead. Crunch. Crunch. Matching him. Surrounding him. Closing in. And then. The whisper came again. Not from one direction. But from everywhere. "You shouldn't have come." Min's legs burned. His lungs felt like they were tearing apart. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Because deep down, he understood something now. Whatever was following him was no longer just one thing. Chapter 6. The Caretaker. Min didn't know how long he had been running. Time no longer made sense. The cemetery seemed endless, every path folding into another, every turn leading him deeper instead of out. The graves blurred past him in uneven rows, their blank surfaces flashing in and out of the beam of his shaking flashlight. Behind him, the footsteps still followed. Not fast. Not slow. Just constant. Crunch. Crunch. And sometimes, there were more. Min's lungs burned as he stumbled forward, his legs threatening to give out beneath him. His heartbeat pounded so violently in his ears that it almost drowned out everything else. Almost. Then, suddenly, silence. The footsteps stopped. All of them. At once. Min slowed. Then stopped. The silence that followed was worse than anything before. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. Min stood frozen, his breath shallow, afraid that even the smallest movement would bring the sounds back again. And then, he saw it. A faint light. Not from the sky. Not from his flashlight. But from somewhere ahead. A dim, flickering glow, like an old lantern struggling to stay lit. Min hesitated. Every instinct told him to turn and run the other way. But there was nowhere else to go. Slowly, cautiously, he moved toward the light. The graves around him grew sparser. The ground became flatter. And soon, he stepped into a small clearing. At the center of it stood a tiny structure. A shack. Old. Crooked. Barely holding itself together. The wooden walls were stained dark, as if soaked by years of rain, or something else. The door hung slightly open, creaking softly as it moved back and forth without wind. And hanging beside it, a lantern. The source of the light. Min swallowed. "Hello?" he called out. His voice felt too loud in the stillness. No answer. He took another step closer. The door creaked wider. Then, a voice. "Late." Min froze. The voice didn't come from behind him. Or from the shadows. It came from inside the shack. Low. Dry. And hollow. "You're late." Min forced himself to speak. "Who's there?" A pause. Then, slow footsteps. From inside the shack. One step. Then another. Dragging slightly. The door opened fully. And something stepped out. An old man. Thin. Unnaturally thin. His skin clung tightly to his bones. Pale and stretched, like it didn't quite belong to him. His clothes were worn and dirt-stained, hanging loosely from his body as if he had been buried in them, and never changed since. But it was his eyes. Milky white. Clouded. Blind. Yet somehow. Looking directly at Min. "You came in after midnight," the old man said calmly. Not asking. Stating. Min stepped back instinctively. "Who are you?" The old man tilted his head slightly. A slow, unnatural motion. "I keep the place," he replied. Min frowned. "The cemetery?" A faint smile stretched across the old man's face. "Too wide. Too still." "No," he said. "Not the cemetery." A pause. "This is what it becomes." Min felt a cold wave wash over him. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice shaking despite himself. "What is this place?" The old man took a step closer. His feet made no sound. "This," he said softly, "is where those who enter are kept." Min's stomach dropped. "I didn't come here to stay," he said quickly. "I'm leaving." The old man's smile didn't change. "No one leaves," he said. Silence. Min shook his head. "That's not possible." The old man raised one hand slowly and pointed into the darkness behind Min. "Then go." Min turned. The path behind him. Gone. No gate. No trail. No hill. Only endless rows of graves stretching into darkness. Min spun back around. "What did you do?" The old man ignored the question. Instead, he spoke again. Calm. Certain. "There are rules," he said. Min stared at him. "If you had listened," the old man continued, "you might have lasted longer." A long pause. Then, he raised one finger. "First rule." His voice dropped lower. Colder. "Never stop walking when you hear the second footsteps." Min's blood ran cold. The old man raised a second finger. "Second rule." He leaned closer. So close Min could smell the damp, rotten earth clinging to him. "Never answer when something speaks your name." Min's breath caught. Because at that exact moment, from somewhere deep within the cemetery, A voice called out. Soft. Familiar. Min. Min froze. The old man's smile widened. Too late, he whispered. Behind them, the footsteps returned. And this time, they were running.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 7. The Hands Beneath the Earth. The moment the voice called his name, Min turned. He didn't think. Didn't remember the rule. Didn't hesitate. Min. The sound was clearer now. Closer. Almost gentle. And unmistakably familiar. Min's eyes widened. Mom? The words slipped out before he could stop it. Behind him, the old man sighed. A long, disappointed breath. You answered, he murmured. But Min didn't hear him anymore. Because something had changed. The cemetery shifted. The air grew heavier. The darkness deepened. And the silence broke. From beneath his feet, a sound. Soft at first. Then growing louder. Crack. Min looked down. The ground was splitting open. Thin fractures spread across the dirt. Like something underneath was pushing upward. Forcing the earth apart. No. Crack. 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 The soil began to rise. Bulging. Moving. Alive. Min stumbled backward. What is this? Then. It broke. The ground tore open beneath him. And from the darkness below, something reached up. A hand. Pale. Rotting. Its skin torn and hanging loosely from the bone. Its fingers long, too long. It grabbed his ankle. Min screamed. Let go. He kicked violently, but the grip tightened. Stronger than it should have been. Colder than anything alive. Then. Another hand. And another. The ground around him erupted. Hands burst through the dirt in every direction. Dozens. Hundreds. Clawing. Reaching. Grabbing. They latched onto his legs. His shoes. His clothes. Pulling. Min fell hard onto the ground. The flashlight slipped from his hand, rolling away, its beam spinning wildly across the chaos. No, no, no. He tried to crawl, but more hands grabbed him. His arms. His shoulders. His back. Each touch burned with freezing cold. Like ice digging into his flesh. They weren't just pulling him down. They were dragging him back. Into the earth. Min dug his fingers into the soil. Desperate to hold on. Help me, he screamed. The old man stood a few steps away. Watching. Not moving. You stayed too long, he said quietly. Min looked up at him. Panic flooding his face. Do something. The old man shook his head slowly. I don't stop them, he replied. A pause. I only watch. The hands pulled harder. Min felt his body sinking. Inch by inch. The dirt swallowed his legs. Then his waist. The smell hit him next. Rot. Decay. Something ancient and wet. And then. Whispers. So many whispers. Layered. Overlapping. Endless. Stay. Don't leave. Join us. Min screamed, shaking his head violently. No, no. His hand reached blindly for something. Anything. And then. He felt it. His flashlight. He grabbed it and swung it wildly at the hands gripping him. The beam struck them, and for a split second, they recoiled. Not much. Not far. But enough. Min pulled. Hard. Desperate. One arm came free. Then another. He dragged himself forward, clawing at the dirt, ignoring the pain as nails tore and skin split. The hands reached again, grabbing, scratching, trying to pull him back. But Min kept moving, inch by inch, until finally, he broke free. He collapsed onto the ground, gasping, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Behind him, the hands slowly sank back into the earth, one by one, until the ground closed again. As if nothing had ever happened. Silence returned. Min lay there, shaking, barely able to breathe. Then, a shadow fell over him. The old man, standing above, looking down. "You resisted," he said. There was something new in his voice. Interest. That doesn't happen often. Min forced himself to look up. His voice cracked. "What are they?" The old man's expression didn't change. "They are the ones who tried to leave," he said. Min's blood ran cold. A long pause. Then, the old man leaned closer. And now, a faint smile returned. "They know your name." From beneath the ground, something moved again. Chapter 8. The Book of the Dead. Min couldn't feel his legs. Not from injury. Not from pain. But from the lingering cold left behind by the hands that had nearly dragged him beneath the earth. It clung to his bones, seeped into his veins, and refused to fade. He pushed himself up slowly, his body trembling. I need to get out," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. The old man said nothing. He had already turned away. Min looked up. "Wait." The old man stopped. "Not fully. Just enough. If I follow you," Min said, forcing the words out through shaking breath. "Will you show me the way out?" A long silence. Then, a quiet answer. "I can show you where the others went." Min hesitated. Every part of him screamed that this was wrong. That nothing here should be trusted. That following the old man deeper into the cemetery was the worst possible choice. But staying still was worse. "Fine," Min said. The old man began walking. Slow. Unsteady. Dragging one foot slightly with each step. Min followed. The cemetery shifted again as they moved. Graves seemed to slide past one another when he wasn't looking directly at them. The paths twisted in unnatural ways. Narrowing, widening, disappearing, and reappearing as if the space itself refused to remain fixed. After a while, they reached something different. Not a grave. Not a path. A structure. Larger than the shack from before. Old. Collapsed in places. A building. Or what remained of one. "This wasn't here before," Min muttered. The old man didn't respond. He simply pushed the door. It opened with a long, hollow creak. Inside. Darkness. Min hesitated at the entrance. "You want to leave," the old man said without turning. A pause. "Then come." Min swallowed and stepped inside. The air changed instantly. Thicker. Staler. The smell of rot was stronger here. The old man lit another lantern. Dim light spread slowly across the room and revealed shelves, dozens of them, stretching along the walls, filled with books, old, dust-covered, some half-decayed. Min frowned. "What is this place?" The old man walked to the center of the room. "A record," he said. Min stepped closer. "A record of what?" The old man reached out, pulled one book from the shelf, and handed it to him. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed. Min opened it. Names. Line after line. Page after page. Hundreds. No. Thousands. Each name carefully written. Some familiar. Some not. Min flipped through faster. Dates. Times. All recorded. "What is this?" he whispered. The old man spoke softly. "Everyone who entered after midnight." Min's fingers tightened around the book. "And?" A pause. The old man's voice dropped. "They never left." Silence. Min shook his head. "No, no, that's not." He stopped, because his eyes landed on something. A page near the end. The ink looked fresh. Still dark. Still wet. His breath caught. Slowly. Carefully. He read the last entry. Min. His name. Written clearly. Below it. A time. 0:47. Min's heart pounded violently. That's not possible. He looked at his watch. 0:42. 5 minutes. "No," he whispered. His hands began to shake. "No, this isn't real, this isn't." The book slipped slightly in his grip. And then, more ink appeared. Right before his eyes. Letters forming slowly. As if written by an invisible hand. A second line. Status. Pending. Min stumbled backward, nearly dropping the book. "What is this?" The old man watched him. Silent. "You are not dead yet," he said calmly. Min looked at him, panic flooding his voice. "Then why is my name there?" A long pause. The old man stepped closer. "Because," he said quietly, "you already entered." The lantern flickered. The room darkened for a brief second. And in that moment, Min heard something. Behind him. Pages turning. Not one book. All of them. At once. He turned slowly. The shelves. Every book. Was opening. By itself. Pages flipping rapidly. Stopping. All on the same line. The last line. The newest name. His. And then. From somewhere deep within the room. A whisper. Not one. Many. Reading. Together. Min. The lantern went out. Darkness swallowed everything.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 9. His Own Grave. Darkness. Complete. Suffocating. Min couldn't see anything. The lantern had gone out. The room, the shelves, the books. Gone. Only the whispers remained. Soft at first. Then growing louder. Min. 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 They came from everywhere. Behind him. In front of him. Inside his head. Min clamped his hands over his ears. Stop. But the voices didn't stop. They grew closer. Sharper. as if something unseen was circling him, tightening the space around him with every passing second. His breathing became ragged. I'm not staying here. I'm not dying here. Then, a flicker. Light returned. Not from the lantern. From outside. Cold. Pale. Moonlight. Min blinked rapidly. The room was gone. He was standing outside again. Back in the cemetery. But something was different. The sky above him. Empty. No stars. No clouds. Just a flat, endless black. And the cemetery. It had changed. The graves were no longer scattered randomly. They were aligned. Perfectly. Row after row. Like something had reorganized them. For a purpose. Min turned slowly. His breath caught. At the center. There was a space. An empty plot. And in that space. A grave. New. Fresh soil. Still loose. Min felt his body go cold. No. He stepped closer. Each step heavier than the last. As if the ground itself was resisting him. Telling him not to look. But he did. He had to. The tombstone stood upright. Clean. Uncracked. Unlike the others. As if it had just been placed there. Min raised his flashlight. The beam trembled. Then settled. On the name. Min. His vision blurred. No, this isn't real. Below the name. More text. A date. Tonight. And beneath that. A time. 0:47. Min's hand shot to his wrist. His watch. 0:44. 3 minutes. His heart slammed violently against his ribs. No, I can still leave, I just have to. He turned. The cemetery stretched endlessly in every direction. No gate. No exit. Only graves. And all of them. Now had names. Thousands of names. All facing inward. All facing him. Min stumbled backward. They're watching me. A low sound rose from the ground. Not breaking. Not cracking. Breathing. The earth itself was breathing. In. Out. Slow. Heavy. Min's chest tightened. Time was moving. Too fast. 0:45. 1 minute gone. Then. A sound. Behind him. Crunch. Min turned. A figure stood between the graves. The old man. Watching. You saw it, he said quietly. Min's voice broke. Tell me how to stop it. The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the grave. Then back at Min. There is no stopping it, he said. Min shook his head violently. No, there has to be a way. A long pause. Then, the old man spoke again. There is only delay. Min froze. What? The old man stepped aside slightly. And pointed. Beyond the graves. Into the darkness. Run, he said. Min didn't hesitate. He ran. As fast as he could. His legs burned. His lungs screamed. But he ran. Because behind him. Something started moving. Not footsteps. Not hands. Something else. Something heavy. Dragging itself across the ground. Getting closer. 0:46. 30 seconds. Min pushed harder. But the cemetery twisted. The path bent. And suddenly, he stopped, dead in his tracks. Because right in front of him, another grave. Identical. Same name. Same time. 047. His grave. Again. He turned. Another. Then another. Every direction. The same grave. Waiting. 0 hours 46 minutes and 40 seconds. The air grew colder. The ground beneath him softened. Sinking. Pulling him down. No, no. The whisper returned. Closer than ever. Right behind him. You can't outrun it. Min screamed. 0 hours 46 minutes and 55 seconds. 5 seconds. The ground split. The grave in front of him opened. 0 hours 46 minutes and 58 seconds. Min tried to move, but his legs wouldn't respond. 0 hours 46 minutes and 59 seconds. A hand reached out from inside the grave and grabbed him. 047. Silence. Absolute. Then the ground closed. As if nothing had ever happened. The cemetery returned to stillness. Another name. No longer pending. Chapter 10. There is no escape. I ran without direction, without thought, as if instinct alone could carry me out of that place. The cemetery no longer felt like a space I could cross. It felt like something that closed in on me with every step I took. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Sometimes hard like stone, sometimes soft like wet soil. As though it could not decide whether to support me or swallow me whole. My breath came in ragged bursts. Loud and uneven, echoing strangely in the silence. It didn't sound like my breathing anymore. It sounded forced. Dragged out of my chest by something that wanted to hear me panic. I kept looking for the gate. I told myself that if I could just find it, just see it once, I would make it out. But the cemetery wouldn't let me. Every path I chose twisted away from where I thought I had come from. What had once seemed like a simple trail now split into countless directions. Weaving between graves that looked more and more alike the longer I stared at them. I turned left, then right, then ran straight ahead without thinking, yet every time, I stopped for the same reason. The grave. My grave. It was always there, waiting for me. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. But the more I ran, the more certain I became that it wasn't my perception that was changing, it was the cemetery itself. It was moving, rearranging, guiding me. Or trapping me. I stopped again, my legs trembling as I stared at the tombstone in front of me. My name was carved into it with unnatural precision, as if it had always been there. Long before I ever set foot in this place. Below it, the time remained the same. 047. I didn't need to check my watch anymore. I could feel the time slipping away. Not as seconds, but as something physical. Something pressing against me, tightening around my chest like invisible hands. I turned and ran again. Forcing my body to move even as it screamed for rest. Then I heard it. Not footsteps. Not whispers. Something else. A dragging sound. Slow, heavy, relentless. It came from behind me at first. Scraping across the ground like something being pulled. Something that didn't move on its own. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because deep down, I knew that if I saw it, I would stop. And if I stopped, I wouldn't start again. The sound grew closer anyway. It didn't need to chase me. It was already where I was going. I turned sharply around a cluster of graves, and collided with something I couldn't see. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, and I staggered backward in shock. There was nothing in front of me. Nothing visible. And yet something had blocked my way completely. I reached out with trembling hands. Empty air. But when I pushed forward, I felt resistance, solid, unyielding, like a wall that didn't exist. Panic surged through me. No, this isn't real. I tried again, harder this time. Nothing moved. I was trapped. The realization settled in slowly, like cold water filling my lungs. There was no path out. There never had been. The ground beneath me shifted again, softer now, sinking slightly under my weight. I looked down and saw my shoes pressing deeper into the soil. As if the earth had begun to recognize me, to accept me, to claim me. I tried to pull my foot free, but something held it in place. Not from above. From below. A grip tightened around my ankle, cold, firm, inescapable. I gasped and pulled harder, my body shaking as I struggled against it. Then the ground in front of me opened. Not violently. Not suddenly. But slowly. Deliberately. The grave. My grave. The soil parted, revealing a darkness so deep it seemed to absorb the light itself. It wasn't just a hole, it was an absence. A void that didn't belong to the world above. And from that darkness, something moved. A hand. Pale, thin, still. Waiting. For me. I tried to step back. But my legs wouldn't respond. The ground had already begun to take me, pulling me down inch by inch, as if I were sinking into something alive. The whisper came again, surrounding me from every direction. Stay. Don't fight. You belong here? I shook my head violently, refusing to listen, refusing to give in. My entire body trembled as I gathered what little strength I had left and pulled with everything I could. For a moment, just one moment, the grip loosened. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I tore my leg free and fell backward, crashing onto the ground away from the open grave. And then, everything stopped. The air. The ground. The sound. All of it. Silence fell so suddenly it felt unnatural. Like the world itself had been cut off mid-breath. I lay there, gasping, my body shaking uncontrollably as I stared up into the empty sky. I was alive. I could still breathe. I could still move. Slowly, I lifted my hand in front of my face. It was still mine. But something was wrong. The skin looked paler than before. Too pale. And when I flexed my fingers, they moved. But they didn't feel the same. There was no warmth. No life. Only a dull, distant sensation. Like I was controlling something that no longer truly belonged to me. I sat up slowly and looked around. The cemetery was quiet again. Still. Unmoving. As if nothing had happened. But I knew better. Because I could feel it now. Not outside. Not around me. But inside. Something had changed. Something had ended. And something else had begun. I didn't escape. I understood that now. I was still here. Because I was no longer trying to leave.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 11. The Ones Who Remain. I didn't know how long I sat there after the grave closed. Time had lost its meaning. There was no wind, no sound, no movement. Only the heavy stillness of the cemetery pressing down on everything. Including me. I should have been panicking. I should have been trying to run again. But I didn't. Because something inside me had changed. The fear was still there, but it was distant now. Like an echo fading through a long corridor. My thoughts felt slower, heavier, as if they no longer fully belonged to me. I stood up. Not quickly. Not urgently. Just slowly. Like I had all the time in the world. The cemetery stretched out before me. Quiet and unmoving. But this time, I wasn't trying to escape it. That realization should have terrified me. Instead, it felt natural. I took a step forward. Then another. My footsteps no longer echoed. The ground didn't resist me. It didn't shift or trap me like before. It simply accepted me. I walked between the graves. No longer checking the names. No longer searching for the gate. Something deep inside me already knew I wouldn't find it. Because I wasn't meant to. Then, I saw them. At first, I thought they were shadows. Shapes standing between the graves. Barely visible in the dim light. Still. Unmoving. I slowed. They didn't move. I stepped closer. And they became clearer. People. Standing silently among the tombstones. A man. A woman. A child. More. Dozens. All facing different directions. All completely still. I stopped a few steps away from them. "Hello?" I said. My voice sounded wrong. Flat. Empty. No one answered. I moved closer to the nearest figure, a woman. Her head was slightly tilted. As if she had been listening to something that no longer existed. Her eyes were open, but unfocused, staring past me into nothing. Her skin. Pale. Like mine. "Are you alive?" I asked. She didn't respond. For a moment, I thought she hadn't heard me. Then, slowly, her head turned. Not naturally. Not smoothly. It moved in small, stiff motions, as if her neck had forgotten how to bend. Her eyes locked onto mine. And I felt it. Recognition. "You're new," she said. Her voice was soft. Too soft. Like it hadn't been used in a long time. I swallowed. "What is this place?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied me. As if confirming something. "You made it past the time," she said. I frowned. "What?" Her gaze shifted slightly, toward my chest. "You were taken," she continued, "but not completely." A cold sensation spread through me. "I don't understand." She gave a faint smile. It didn't reach her eyes. None of us did, not at first. I looked around. At the others. "Who are they?" I asked. "Us," she replied. A pause. "The ones who stayed." Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "You mean, you're trapped here?" Her smile widened slightly. "No," she said. Another pause. "We are here." The way she said it. Not as a complaint. Not as fear. As fact. I shook my head. There has to be a way out. At that, she laughed. A dry, hollow sound. Everyone says that, she whispered. Her eyes drifted past me. Unfocused again. Everyone runs, at first. My chest tightened. And then? She looked back at me. And then they stop. Silence fell between us. I felt it again. That heaviness. That pull. Not from the ground. From the place itself. Calling. Waiting. I clenched my fists. I won't stay here. Her expression didn't change. You already are. The words hit harder than anything else. I stepped back. No, I'm not like you. She tilted her head slightly. You are, she said gently. Then, she reached out. Her fingers brushed against my hand. Cold. Exactly like mine. I froze. You feel it, don't you? She whispered. I didn't answer. Because I did. The absence of warmth. The absence of life. Something inside me. Missing. I'm not dead, I said, forcing the words out. She nodded slowly. Not completely. My breath caught. What does that mean? She leaned closer. So you can still be used. A chill ran through me. For what? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped back. And the others moved. Not walking. Not shifting. But turning. All at once. Every single one of them. Facing me. Dozens of pale faces. Empty eyes. Watching. Waiting. And then. Together. They spoke. Soft. Low. We need one more. My blood ran cold. Because this time. I understood. Chapter 12. What the cemetery truly is. I didn't move. I couldn't. Dozens of pale faces stared at me. Their empty eyes fixed in a way that felt heavier than any physical weight. It wasn't just that they were looking at me. It was the way they were waiting. As if something about me mattered. As if something about me was needed. We need one more. The words echoed in my mind long after their voices had fallen silent. I forced myself to step back. No, I'm not staying here, I said, though my voice lacked the strength it once had. No one responded. They simply continued to watch. Unblinking. Unmoving. Then, the ground shifted. Not violently. Not like before. This time, it was slow. Subtle. The soil beneath my feet pulsed faintly. As if something deep below the surface was breathing again. I felt it travel upward through my body, through my legs. Into my chest. Into my head. Until even my thoughts felt shared. What is this place? I whispered. No one answered. But something else did. Not a voice. A feeling. A presence. It spread through the cemetery like a silent current. Touching everything at once, the graves. The figures. The air itself. And then. It touched me. My breath caught. Images flooded my mind. Not memories. Not mine. Something older. I saw the cemetery, before it became what it is now. It wasn't always endless. It wasn't always silent. There had been a boundary once. A gate that worked. Paths that led out. And people. Living people. They buried their dead here. Mourned. Left. But one night. Something changed. Someone entered after midnight. Not by accident. Not by curiosity. By intent. I saw him. A man standing in the center of the cemetery. Surrounded by graves. His face was blurred, shifting, as if it didn't want to be remembered. He carried something. Not a tool. Not a weapon. A ritual. Symbols carved into the ground. Words spoken in a language that didn't belong to the living. He wasn't trying to leave. He was trying to open something. And he did. The ground responded. Not like earth. Like flesh. It moved. Shifted. Opened. And something beneath it awoke. The cemetery didn't become haunted. It became alive. The images shattered. I staggered, nearly falling as the weight of what I had seen pressed down on me. "No," I whispered. "No, that's not." "It is," the woman said softly. I looked at her. Her expression hadn't changed. But now, I understood. "This place," I said slowly, my voice unsteady, "it's not trapping people." She shook her head. "It's keeping them." A pause. "And feeding." My stomach dropped. "Feeding on what?" She didn't hesitate. "You." The word hit harder than anything else. "All of you," she continued, gesturing slightly to the others. "All of us." I shook my head violently. "That doesn't make sense. How can a place?" "It's not a place," she interrupted gently. Silence. My breath caught. "Then what is it?" I asked. For the first time. She hesitated. Then, she answered. "It's something that needed to grow." A cold realization began to form inside me. "And we're roots," she said. The ground beneath me pulsed again. Stronger this time. I felt it clearly now. Something deep below. Connected. To every grave. To every body. To me. I stepped back, panic rising again. "No, I won't let this happen. I won't become part of it." The woman watched me quietly. "You already are." My breath trembled. "You crossed the threshold," she continued. "You stayed past the time." A pause. "And it touched you?" I looked down at my hands. Still pale. Still cold. "Then why am I still like this?" I asked. "Why am I not like the others?" The figures around us shifted slightly. Not moving. But listening. The woman's gaze softened. "Because you're not finished yet." My chest tightened. "Finished with what?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked past me. Toward the darkness beyond the graves. And then, I heard it. Footsteps. Real ones. Distant. Approaching. My entire body went still. "No," I whispered. The woman nodded slowly. "Another one." The figures around us stirred. Not walking. Not speaking. But aware. Watching. Waiting. My heart began to race again. "You said?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "You said it needs one more?" She looked at me. "Yes." A pause. Then, very quietly. "And now, you understand why." The footsteps grew closer. Closer. Coming toward the gate. Toward the cemetery. Toward me. And in that moment, I realized something far worse than death. I had a choice.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 13. The Choice. The footsteps grew louder. Slow. Uncertain. Human. I stood frozen, every part of me suddenly awake again. Not from fear this time, but from something else. Something sharper. Clearer. Hope. The sound came from beyond the rows of graves. From a direction I hadn't been able to reach before. It didn't twist or disappear like the other paths. It stayed steady. Real. Another person. Alive. My heart began to pound again. But not with panic, this time. It was anticipation. If someone else entered. If someone crossed the threshold after midnight. I swallowed. Then I can leave, I whispered. The words felt wrong the moment they left my mouth. But they were true. I turned slowly toward the woman. Her expression hadn't changed. She was watching me. Waiting. You knew this would happen, I said. She didn't deny it. It always does, she replied. I looked around. At the others. All of them still facing me. Still silent. But now, I understood their stillness. They weren't passive. They weren't empty. They were waiting for someone like me. Someone who still had a choice. The footsteps came closer. Gravel crunching. Breath uneven. I could almost see him now. Just beyond the darkness. A silhouette. Hesitating at the edge. Just like I had. My chest tightened. I remembered the warning. The old man. The tea shop. Don't go in. I could say it. I could shout it right now. And he would stop. Maybe. I took a step forward. My voice trembled. H. I stopped. Because something inside me resisted. Not fear. Not doubt. Something deeper. The cemetery. I could feel it now. Clearer than ever. Not outside me. Inside. A slow pressure wrapping around my thoughts. Whispering without words. If he leaves. You stay. My breath grew shallow. I looked at my hands. Pale. Cold. Not fully alive. I imagined staying here. Forever. Standing like the others. Watching. Waiting. Feeling nothing but the weight of time pressing endlessly forward. No, I whispered. The silhouette moved closer. One step. Then another. He was about to cross. This was the moment. My moment. I could save him. Or I could save myself. The woman spoke softly behind me. This is when they all decide. I closed my eyes. For a brief second, I saw my life. The city. The noise. The light. The feeling of being alive. Warm. Real. Then, I opened my eyes. The silhouette stood at the edge of the cemetery. All he needed was one more step. I took a breath. And I said nothing. Silence. Heavy. Final. The man stepped forward. Crossed the threshold. And the moment he did, the air shifted. The cemetery exhaled. Satisfied. Behind me, the figures moved. Not visibly. But I felt it. A release. The weight inside me lifted. Suddenly. Violently. I gasped. Warmth returned to my fingers. To my chest. My heartbeat. Stronger. Faster. Alive. I stumbled backward. What's happening? The woman looked at me. And for the first time, she smiled. A real smile. You're leaving, I turned and saw it. The gate. Open. Just a few steps away. Something I had been searching for. Now simply there. Waiting. I didn't hesitate. I ran toward it. Every step lighter than the last. The air no longer resisted me. The ground no longer pulled me down. I reached the gate. Stopped for just a second. And looked back. The cemetery stood still. Silent. The figures. Gone. As if they had never been there. But deep inside, I knew. They were still watching. And now, someone else had taken my place. I stepped through the gate. And this time, it didn't close behind me. Chapter 14. I was never truly out. I didn't remember the walk back. One moment, I was standing at the gate. The next, I was already at the edge of the village. The sky had begun to lighten. A faint gray creeping over the horizon, dissolving the darkness that had swallowed everything just hours before. The air felt different out here, lighter, warmer, alive. Alive. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. In, out, in, out. My chest rose and fell normally again. My hands. Warm. I flexed my fingers slowly, watching them move. They felt real. Solid. Mine. I made it, I whispered. The words sounded distant, like they didn't fully belong to me. Behind me. The hill. The cemetery. Silent. Still. In daylight, it looked ordinary. Harmless. Just a cluster of old graves behind a rusted gate. Nothing more. I let out a shaky laugh. All of that, I muttered, it wasn't real. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. Because something inside me hadn't changed back. Something had followed me. I turned away from the hill and walked toward the village. The roads were empty. No one was outside yet. No voices. No movement. Only the quiet hum of early morning. I reached the house I had been staying in and pushed the door open. It creaked softly. The same as before. Everything looked the same. The same. I stepped inside. Closed the door. And froze. The air inside felt wrong. Not heavy. Not cold. Just still. As if nothing had moved in here for a very long time. I frowned. That's weird. I walked toward the small table near the window. My bag was still there. My phone. My jacket. Everything exactly where I had left it. I picked up my phone. The screen lit up. The time. 0:47. My breath caught. No, that's not. I looked toward the window. Outside. The sky was still gray. Still morning. But my phone still showed the time I should have died. 0:47. The screen flickered. Then changed. No signal. A chill ran down my spine. I set the phone down slowly. And that's when I noticed it. The silence. Not normal silence. Not the quiet of early morning. This was different. Too complete. I moved toward the window. Looked outside. And my blood turned cold. The village was empty. No people. No animals. No movement. Nothing. Like it had been abandoned. Or erased. I stumbled back. No, this isn't right. Then I heard it. A sound. Faint. From behind me. Inside the room. I turned slowly. The corner. Near the door. Dark. Too dark. Darker than it should be. And in that darkness, something moved. Not fully visible. Just enough. A shape. Standing there. Watching me. My breath stopped. Hello? The shape didn't answer. It didn't move. But I felt it. The same presence. The same cold. The same thing. From the cemetery. I left. I whispered. Silence. Then. A voice. Right behind me. You were allowed to leave. I froze. The voice. Not unfamiliar. The old man. Slowly. I turned. He was standing there. Inside the room. Exactly as he had been before. Pale. Still. Eyes clouded. You, I whispered. He tilted his head slightly. You think stepping outside means you escaped? My chest tightened. I saw the gate. I walked out. He nodded slowly. Yes. A pause. We let you. My heart dropped. What do you mean, let me? The old man stepped closer. His feet made no sound. You chose, he said. The memory hit me instantly. The man. The gate. My silence. You took his place. The old man continued. I shook my head. No, I left. He smiled faintly. You changed positions. The room felt colder. The air heavier. You are no longer the one being kept, he said. A pause. You are now part of what keeps. My breath stopped. No. But deep down, I understood. That feeling inside me. That connection. That thing that followed me out. It wasn't chasing me. It was me. The old man turned toward the door. And now, he said quietly, you'll hear them. Silence. Then, from beneath the floor, a sound. Faint. Scratching.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.
Chapter 15. The One Who Calls. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The scratching never stopped. At first, it was faint. Barely there. Like something brushing lightly against the wood beneath the floor. But as time passed, it grew louder. Clearer. Scrape. Scrape. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ground, my entire body tense. It's not real, I whispered. But I already knew. It was. The sound wasn't random. It had rhythm. Intent. As if something below was trying to reach me. Or worse. Trying to be heard. I stood up slowly. Every instinct told me not to move. Not to get closer. Not to look. But something inside me pulled. The same feeling I had in the cemetery. That connection. That call. I took a step forward. Then another. Until I stood directly above the sound. It stopped. Silence filled the room again. My breath trembled. Hello, I whispered. For a moment. Nothing. Then. A voice. From beneath the floor. Soft. Broken. Help me. My heart dropped. I knew that voice. I had heard it before. Not clearly. Not fully. But I remembered the feeling. That desperation. That fear. The same as mine, not long ago. I stepped back. No. But the voice came again. Closer. Please, I can't get out. My chest tightened. It sounded so real. Too real. I shook my head. This isn't real, this isn't. You said the same thing. The voice cut through me. I froze. Because this time, it wasn't coming from below. It was behind me. I turned slowly. The old man stood in the doorway. Watching. Always watching. They all do, he said quietly. I clenched my fists. Make it stop. He didn't move. Why would I? He replied. My breath shook. Because they're suffering. A pause. Then. So were you. The words hit harder than anything else. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then. The voice beneath the floor changed. Not pleading anymore. Calling. Min. My entire body went still. You hear it now, the old man said. I didn't answer. Because I did. Not just from below. From everywhere. Faint. Endless. Calling my name. The same way I had heard it in the cemetery. The same way I had answered. You crossed the threshold, the old man continued. His voice calm. Certain. You were taken. A pause. But not completely. I looked at him. And now? I asked. He tilted his head slightly. Now you help. My chest tightened. Help what? A faint smile appeared on his lips. The cycle. The scratching beneath the floor grew louder again. Scrape. Scrape. Then. A crack. A thin line splitting across the wooden boards. I stumbled back. No. The crack widened. And from the darkness below. A hand. Pale. Reaching up. Grabbing at nothing. At me. Please, the voice whispered. My breath came faster. My mind racing. I could ignore it. Walk away. Let it fade. Like they all did. Or. I could respond. Just one word. Just one answer. And everything would begin again. I turned toward the door. The old man stepped aside. Letting me pass. Where are you going? He asked. I didn't stop. I need air. But we both knew that wasn't true. I stepped outside. The village was still empty. Silent. Waiting. I walked slowly. Not toward the road. Not away from it. But toward the hill. The cemetery. The gate. Open. Just like before. And then. I saw him. A figure standing near the entrance. Looking in. Hesitating. Just like I had. My chest tightened. I stopped a few steps away. I could warn him. I could tell him everything. I could save him. The words formed in my throat. Don't. I stopped. Because something inside me spoke louder. Not in words. But in knowing. If he leaves. You return. My breath slowed. My thoughts quieted. The fear. Faded. Replaced by something else. Calm. Acceptance. I stepped closer. The man turned to me. Hey, is this place? I looked at him. And for a brief moment. I saw myself. The same confusion. The same doubt. The same mistake. I opened my mouth. And this time. I spoke. It's just a cemetery, I said calmly. A pause. Nothing to worry about. He hesitated, then nodded, and stepped forward. Crossed the threshold. The air shifted. The gate creaked. And behind me, the world exhaled. I stood there for a long time, listening, waiting. And then, from deep within the cemetery, a scream. I closed my eyes. Just for a second. Then turned away. Walking back toward the village. Slow. Steady. As if I had done this before. As if I would do it again. And somewhere, far below, a voice began to call. Not his. Not theirs. Mine. Come in. If one day you find yourself standing before a gate left open in the dark. If you hear something calling your name from the other side. Remember. Don't answer. Don't step inside. And never believe you can leave. Because once you enter, even if you walk out, you are no longer yourself.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.